Hi, everybody. My name is Will Berger. I'm with Restart.Run, and I am here with Clint Oldenburg. Clint, would you please introduce yourself to our fine people?
Yeah, hi, I'm Clint Oldenburg, production director for gameplay here at Tiburon on Madden NFL.
Clint, a huge presentation for y'all, a ton of stuff to talk about. I actually wanted to talk about just kind of, I think for a lot of people in the last couple of years, I noticed have started coming back to Madden and they're looking for a team. So if you had to give people like, hey, this is my go-to team and here's how you would play them, what would you tell them?
Yeah, that's an easy one for me. So the team that I use is the Washington Commanders. A, my favorite team. B, Jaden Daniels is an awesome quarterback. You can run or pass with him. And with the 1,000 new plays that we have coming to our playbooks this year, there's a ton of cool new plays in the Commanders playbook that Cliff Kingsbury was running last year with the Commanders.
And what are you most excited from team-wise, from like a video game perspective? Are there any teams that stick out to you this year that you're like, man, that one is going to be something special?
Yeah, I think like I said, the Commanders because of Jaden Daniels. I really like the Broncos. Bo Nix is also a dual threat quarterback. They've got a new tight end in Evan Ingram, who's really athletic in Madden and a great target. And home field advantage if it snows, the Broncos are going to be less impacted by gameplay impacts of snow and heavy rain because they're used to playing in the snow as opposed to a warm weather team. And then a third one I might throw out, obviously Detroit, probably one of the best, if not the best team in the NFC, right up there with the Eagles. Running with Jahmyr Gibbs feels really cool this year because of the new locomotion that we have in Madden, the player movement, the explosive player movement makes Jahmyr Gibbs really stand out and fun.
Awesome. All right, one more question in that vein, and then I do want to pick your brain on a lot of the gameplay changes. Aside from the players on the teams you've obviously talked about, is there anybody should keep an eye on this year? Anybody they should look at offense wise, defense wise, or like, hey, if you don't want to, if you're just looking at one player, like I want to build my team around that person. Any ideas?
That's a tough question. I think it depends on what your play style is. If you're a defensive minded player, you probably want to get pass rushers or really good run defenders. Take advantage of our block steering and our defensive leverage systems this year that are new to Madden 26. If your offense, man, the quarterback position is getting some pretty extensive upgrades with quarterback DNA. So really, all of our quarterbacks are going to look and feel and play really awesome. But Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Joe Burrow, you could go down the list. Every quarterback's going to be really fun and engaging to play with. So I think it just depends on your play style.
All right. And I'm glad you mentioned quarterback DNA because that was the very next thing I actually wanted to ask you about. Could you walk us through some of the changes that are happening this year? I know you guys have put a ton of work into it.
Yeah, there's really four things that we did with quarterback DNA. So that's the in pocket behavior, the scrambling and on the run, the control and mechanics, and then the passing. I think what sticks out the most is the passing. So from a basic standpoint, we have the basic three arm slots. We have the 3/4 low, the 3/4 high, and then the over top. And those are going to, every quarterback kind of has a standard um, arm slot that they use. But if they are able to change their arm slot in the NFL, like say a Matt Stafford does, or a veteran like that, Mahomes does it all the time too. They'll be able to switch dynamically between those three arm slots based on the passing lanes in front of them. So if they're an over-the-top passer, but the only way to get the throw around maybe an oncoming rusher is a sidearm throw, then they'll dynamically switch to that 3/4 low. I think that's a really nice authenticity play. We also added some signature locomotion. Kyler Murray, when you run with Kyler Murray in the game, it looks just like Kyler Murray. His small, quick steps and the way that he puts his arm out to balance himself when he runs. The responsiveness when running, transitioning from pocket to scramble, a lot more smooth. I would call it like buttery, so you get quick response on the stick when getting outside the pocket. And then lastly, the quarterback moves behind the line. So all the right stick moves that you have with a standard ball carrier, you have available to you on right stick when you're a quarterback, even when in passing mode. So you can do spins and jukes behind the line to try to avoid oncoming pass rushers.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, a ton of changes with quarterbacks, but the thing that I noticed the most when I was out there playing just a few minutes ago was the new weather stuff. First thing I did was play a snow game, and it was horrific for me.
Yeah.
But it felt right. I was noticing, players slipping when they were coming off the line or balls going all sorts of directions. People were fumbling more easy. Can you talk about the new weather systems and how it changes Madden?
Yeah, so we're debuting heavy snow plus fog and heavy snow or heavy rain plus fog this year as new weather conditions. And it's what players told us, especially our simulation-minded players told us they wanted was gameplay impact. They didn't just want a visual upgrade to weather. And so the elements can be as much of an adversary in pro football as the other team. So as you experienced, you might have limited visibility. If you have a heavy fog game, you might have trouble seeing your receivers down the field. You might have to change your game plan to be successful. If you're a passing person, you might have to run the ball more than you want. Or on defense, you might have to blitz less because maybe they're not able to be as explosive getting to the quarterback. You may have to just try to stop the run over the course of the game. The idea is that weather should make you have to think about or at least reconsider your current game plan so that every game feels a little bit different. You have to make different plans for the coach. You have to make different game plans for the quarterback, and now you also have to make different game plan for potentially the weather.
That's awesome. I think one of the other big on-field things that people are going to immediately notice is, hey, wear and tear is in Madden now. And coming along with that, it feels faster. You guys talked about how it was kind of the sweet spot between college football speed and last year's Madden. Tell us about wear and tear. How did you guys go about implementing that? Does it feel fundamentally different from a design perspective on what you've worked on previously?
We really just built on top of what was already there from college football last year, and that's one of the big benefits of having two American football games under the same roof is we get to share things. And with locomotion, with wear and tear, the most important takeaway that I want people to hear is like we're listening and we have listened to players. We put those features in Madden because Madden players asked for them. They told us that they really liked those in college. They wanted them over in Madden, and having two teams working together would make zero sense to not do that. So players asked for it, players got it.
Speaking of things that players asked for and got, one of the things that I was the most excited about was the new stuff in franchise. I'm primarily a franchise player. I know a lot of people play mostly in franchise, and to see all the changes coming to franchise, there's so many. But I wanted to ask you about all the new coaching stuff because there's completely different. It looks like without having a ton of time to have hands on with it.
Yeah, so I could do a light touch on franchise, but there's obviously the new coach abilities or coach traits, which are going to unlock. There's the play sheets, which really simulate going into a game each week to play up to your strengths or play to the weaknesses of your team. Like I was saying previous, every team when they start training camp, they have that playbook that's about this big. But you don't go into each game with that playbook. You go in with a subset of it. So you might know 500 plays, but you're going to go in with 100 plays and really take advantage of the other team's weaknesses. And that's what custom play sheets is really doing in franchise is, again, same theme. You're going to hear this a lot. Football, Madden, gameplay, franchise, any word that you want, built from Sundays. We're trying to bring that Sunday experience from the real world that our fans know and love and deliver it in Madden.
All right. So I always ask this as my last interview question, and there's no right or wrong answer, but obviously so much is changing this year. And I think for a lot of people, some of the stuff is going to be very obvious. But is there anything that you and the team are particularly proud of that players might not notice immediately that has an impact on just the way the game looks or feels or, that makes it different?
Yeah. The one that I'll call out, I don't know how noticeable it'll be or not, but the new depth chart positions is one that I'm particularly proud of getting in the game. Long snappers, they don't have the biggest impact on the game, but they are an NFL player who has a spot on the roster, and we haven't appropriately had them in the game before for a number of different reasons. And it was really hard to get that done because there's a lot of franchise logic needed for roster changes. And when we have a fully modernized depth chart, so long snapper, we have 3 technique, Mike, Sam, and Will. Edge defender now is a primary position, and even a secondary position of gadget player. And I think that the amount of development that brings to franchise, the amount of new scheme unlocks inside of Ultimate Team, and just the authenticity of gameplay is going to be really accelerated because of that maybe small tweak to our depth charts.
Yeah, something I'm definitely excited to play with. Well, thank you, Clint, so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.